Okay. Um, One question you may be asking yourself is, well, where should I teach? And what mean by where is what kind of school. The question of where, in terms of geographical location, um, I'll I'll discuss that in another video. But I can tell you, I love the south of China. I have lived in the north of China. It used to be that I always spent my time in the north of China. When I first came to China in 1991, again, January 1991, during college, when my major was Chinese, and before I had really gotten a foothold in Chinese, I came to China in 1991. And then again, 1994, 1996, 1997, blah blah blah. But at any rate, I can tell you, don't live in the north. There may be certain situations where it's right for you to do that, and a lot of people like to live in Beijing. It's the capital, or maybe you have plans somewhere down the line. You want to do something other than teaching English, or which is good. You can, and I know that. Well, that's neither here nor there. Beijing and the north is much more dirty. It's much colder. I love hot weather. I won't go into that. Okay, so what kind of school should I teach at? Which are the best ones? Okay, well, I will tell you that it basically comes down to two choices. And again, now I'm not also not discussing the age of the students. Of course, that's very important too. Um, I teach adults right now, but here's the thing: you have one basic question: Am I going to teach at a private school, or am I going to teach at a public government school? Um, and there are pluses and minuses to each. So I guess the first one you'd need to ask yourself is, how about working hours? No, no, no. First, let's start with money. The issue of money. Obviously you are paid more at these private schools, these private training centers, um, like Wall Street, Webb International English, EF is English First, all these ones, and also the literally thousands and thousands of small local schools, and many of those pay very well. Sometimes you can extract out of them a much better deal, um, working at a small local school that has maybe two or three branches or something like that. Uh, and there are some benefits to that as well. Sometimes they will give you money right up front, um, just to start. They won't be giving you lots of money while you're overseas and they're here. That they won't do. But they very well may. They'll be cooperative and enthusiastic with you in the process as you're preparing and making arrangements for getting over here to start. But they're not. They Chinese people do not give credit, or when they do, it's very rare. And I've gotten them to give me credit, but again, I've been in China. I've been in China off and on for years and years. Um, and this time I've been living. I don't see myself as going to another place outside of the Chinese language space. I basically consider myself a full-time Chinese resident. I live here continuously. But at any rate, at these private schools, they will pay you more, okay? And but you will work more. Um, Oftentimes, let's say you get a job at one of these, like a public university. You're going to teach at a university at a medium-sized city in China. They might give you about 7 or 8 thousand renminbi per month, plus an apartment. Okay, but then you might only have 14 hours of actual class time, whereas at a private training center, your starting salary when you first apply and you get your job there, maybe it will be 12,000 or 13 or 14,000, Now, just as a footnote, I can tell you at the private training center where I work right now, there are a number of teachers that are making 3,000 a month because they've been there a long time, etc. And I'm almost at that too. But I haven't been at this one as long as I have it. If you're at a school for a long time, they raise your salary each year. Okay, so if you stay in one, you'll get a lot more money. And there are a number who are at 3,000 US dollars a month. I don't know what that is in pounds, but that's their salary. Okay, 3,000. Say, wow, I don't see those advertised. I only see ones that are like 15,000 renminbi per month or 14,000 at one of these larger schools. Well, that's right. That's because that's for someone who just comes in the door. They don't know anything about you, and you haven't been there a long time, and they don't know. They're just starting out. That's just the start. Um, Now, but for example, all the full-time jobs at these going to the issue of working hours. How much do you have to work to get that salary? All right, you have to work much less at those private government schools. At those private government schools, oftentimes maybe there will be 14 teaching hours. That's time actually spent in the classroom per week, whereas it's about 25 hours teaching hours at these private centers like the EFs, the Webb International English, Wall Street, all of these ones. Not only that, oftentimes at those government schools, you don't really have to do any what are called office hours. That means you go in and teach your class, and then if you only have 3 hours on that day, 3 class hours on that day, then you could go do whatever you want for the rest of the time. That is really important because at all of the other ones, most of them, most private training schools, they will require you to be there from, for example, if you're teaching at a kid's school, it could be from 9 to 6. From 9 to 6, you need to be around the office or preparing lessons or doing whatever, maybe some marketing activities, going out and helping getting new customers, or you're teaching your class hours, but it's like a 9 to 5. At the private training centers, it's more like a 9 to 5. You need to be in and around, you need to be there. Now, at the government schools, you also normally will get an apartment. Just like that. You walk in the door, there's no deposits, there's no fuss looking for it, there's no uncertainties regarding the landlord. You've got your own private room. And normally it's in some kind of government. I know that there are many of these private training centers, especially the smaller tier schools, the small schools, they already have set up sort of living arrangements for new teachers and teachers that are in residence. Let's say you have a small branch school at a small city in China, and they teach kids and teenagers English, and they're advertising a position for 11,000 renminbi a month, plus an apartment, accommodation provided. Normally, what that will be is they'll have like a set of apartments they've already rented, or sometimes they've rented two big apartments with 3 bedrooms each. They'll have 6 teachers, and what you get is your own private room, but you have to share, and it's not saying it's bad, you'll have to share a living room with a television, an internet connection with 2 other roommates. And that's not bad. You get it for free, there's no deposit. That's always worth at least 2,000 renminbi a month. If you're in a big city, maybe even a little more. If you're a small city, maybe less. But if you pay 1,500 renminbi for your apartment in your medium-sized Chinese city, and that's about what it'll cost. Sometimes less. It depends how picky you are. If you really want to save money in China, you can do it. You know, if you really want to spend your time looking for your cheaper apartment, you can do that. You might need some Chinese. You might need some Chinese. But at any rate, so the in terms of the money to work ratio when comparing private and public schools, there is definitely an advantage in terms of less work and more certainty when it comes to the government jobs. Um, Now, you're also, um, some people, usually it doesn't happen, but on occasion you hear stories of people, and it's not only stories. Actually, one time I've had disputes with private schools where they, um, well, at any rate, with a government school, you're guaranteed to get your paycheck. No one will try to keep that from you. Um, and so there won't be any business of them trying to hold that over on you, to get you to do something, to try to blackmail you, that sort of thing. Now, what about the nature of the teaching job? The actual sort of the what it is you do every day. What are the expectations regarding how you will perform your job and what you will actually do, and sort of the teacher student interaction? Is there a power dynamic there? Is there, what's happening? Well, I think there's also something different there. And although I'm teaching at a private training center right now, I will say that there are substantial advantages to teaching at one of these private, or excuse me, one of these government-based public schools. As you can understand, in one of those schools, such schools, the teacher's job is just as much to be like, uh, you really are a teacher in the sense that they have to be there, and they're trying to get grades from you. They're trying to get a pass from you. They it's there's no question that they must be in that classroom, and they have to take your class, so you don't have to take their shit. Uh, and so that is a difference. Now, I teach in an adult school, and I don't take shit from any of my students there either. But that having been said, I have my lessons are usually prepared very well, um, and I know a lot about teaching foreign languages because my major was a foreign language. When I was at the University of Washington, given my major was Chinese, I was in the process of being an adult learning a foreign language. So adult second language learning is something that I know a lot about. Um, so that is one difference. Now, one of the downsides there too, as where I teach it now, the students are very motivated to learn. They're interested in learning, okay, English. It's a fun process. They're excited about being able to try out their abilities and perfect their abilities to communicate in a foreign language, a very interesting, worldly, useful foreign language. Uh, and so they really want to be there. Whereas with the public government schools, even with adults, they don't necessarily want to be there. Some are just taking it because they have to take the class. Not all of them. Um, Now, uh, okay, I guess that's it for that. Oh, another thing. It may be that with the public schools, they do a little bit more checking up on you in terms of your qualifications. Um, so you may want to consider that. Whereas with some of these private training centers, only at the larger, more established, the better ones will they'll get into your background and maybe do more than one interview. They'll test you out more. Um, but believe me, you don't have to worry too much about being able to find a job. Right now, the market is such that I could walk outside right now, and within a week, I could have 4 or 5 offers, and so could you. So could you.